Grassroots group Moms for Liberty is continuing to kind of annoy those on the left for advocating for parental rights in education. And now the Daily Beast says they were targeted by a former South Park writer who set up a parody website to criticize the group. Let's bring in Parents Defending Education president and founder Nicole Neily and former Fairfax County teacher who is also running for school board, Deborah Tisler. Thank you both for coming on. To you first, Nikki, because the ex-writer for South Park, Toby Morton, really going after Moms for Liberty, created a parody website, and he writes the following: "My plan is to disrupt this hate group for as long as possible with billboards, pamphlets, background information, and other tactics. They have no interest in truly educating children and would rather actively prevent them from learning the true history of our country." Your thoughts on Mr.
Wild. I mean, if you're not taking flack, you're not over the target, right? So the fact that Moms for Liberty has them big scared is entertaining, but also, let's take a step back. Someone who made millions of dollars making fun of speaking truth to power is now carrying water for those same power brokers. When you're on the same side as the Biden administration, Miguel Cardona, the teachers unions, that's not even fun. That's not sporting. I mean, so shame on him.
Yeah, and I think she makes a good point, Deborah, because really, you're over the target if, the opposite of love, they say, is indifference. And clearly, nobody's indifferent about these parents groups across the country.
And especially a parents group that is advocating so strongly for children to be able to read and to be literate, and to be able to write and to speak effectively. So it's kind of interesting that they're getting such pushback from such media sources simply because they want children to read so that they can read all about history and what is appropriate for them.
Yeah, you talk about media sources, so talking about education, TikTok is now teaching people, young people, how to steal. The quote is this from somebody teaching kids how to steal: "Never under any circumstances look around the store for security cameras, as this looks suspicious per the borrower, who frequently posts videos on her hauls on TikTok." I mean, it's one of those things where all this information for kids, and now we need to teach them like they're not good at stealing enough. I mean,
the Artful Dodger comes into the 21st century. This is like fascinating.
Right.
But is it any surprise when we have weak DAs that are raising the amount of money that you can steal up to $950, right? That criminals are actually sharing that information with each other. This should come as no surprise because we have a soft on crime society.
And it's amazing to me, Deborah, because, the truth is, we've done the story in California where they're putting all this money into curbing retail crime, but they refuse. They absolutely refuse to put in tougher laws, to raise or lower the dollar amount, or make it so that 16 and 17-year-olds can actually face consequences for the thousands and thousands of robberies that are happening every year.
Well, how about adding the requirement of parental consent to have access to some of these social media platforms? Because the children we know are really vulnerable right now, and our current governor, Glenn Youngkin, has been trying to get legislation passed to require platforms like TikTok and others to have that parental consent verified, because we cannot leave children out there vulnerable to criminals.
Yeah, and I want to get to the last topic, but it's important to know, because you brought it up a couple of times, the concept of these laws and these kids and all these things they're doing. Your reading and your math scores are abysmal across the country. They are abysmal in public schools, and there's no law, there's no look at these scores and how to build them better, but there's all kinds of other stuff out there.
All kinds of other things out there, yes. Our children are learning everything except the basics that they need to compete in a global economy.
Yeah. And what would you say about teaching kids how to read and write, like the old-fashioned stuff?
We need to have it. The scores are abysmal, especially in Fairfax County, Virginia.
Yeah.
They just came out and they're continuing to decline. And we know from the Department of Justice that violence and crime, it's welded with illiteracy. We know that 70 to 75% of those that are incarcerated cannot read above a 4th grade level.
Yeah.
So,
it's crazy. Nikki, this is in your wheelhouse. Parents, the Fox News headline, Parents Defending Education leaders say Chinese communist influence on American schools is deeply concerning. What do we need to know?
Sure. So there's going to be a hearing in the House Education Committee tomorrow on this, because an investigation that we did found that over $17 million has flowed from the People's Republic of China directly to over 143 school districts across the country in America's top STEM schools, including Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology in Fairfax, which recently fell from the #1 slot to the #7 slot. And so again, this money's flowing in, teachers are flowing in, our curriculum is being influenced by this, and no one is paying any attention. We need transparency, and we need governors, and we need the federal government to step in and say enough is is enough.
Got to say, it's the first time I've heard it, Deborah. I mean, I've never heard this. You want to wrap us up? 15 seconds?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that China is growing its career paths for their children at a faster rate than we are in the STEM fields. So that's something that the public needs to think about. And when I'm elected as a school board member, I'm going to dig very deep on this very issue as to why we're funding this.
Best of luck in the election, and thank you. Nikki, thank you very much. Deborah, thank you.
Thank you.